Today's story is about a little girl. The Bible doesn't say her name, so we're going to call her Little Maid. Now, Little Maid had been taken away from her home to a country far, far away, and she missed her mommy and daddy very, very much. But her mommy and daddy had told her to love and trust Jesus no matter what happened, and so Little Maid decided that even though she didn't know what would happen in her new country, she was going to be a missionary for Jesus. Little Maid worked for Lady Namaan. Now, Lady Namaan was the wife of Captain Namaan, who worked for the Syrian army. Little Maid did lots of things to help Lady Namaan. She did her best as she dusted or swept the floor. She would help Lady Namaan with her food. She would do all kinds of things to be helpful. But there was one thing that made Lady Namaan very, very sad. You see, Captain Namaan was sick. He had leprosy, and he had white spots all over his body. The doctors didn't know how to make Captain Namaan well, and he would eventually die unless something happened. Little Maid wished she could do something to help Captain Namaan, and then she thought of something. She remembered Prophet Elisha, who lived in her old home country, who might be able to do something to help Captain Namaan. So she told Lady Namaan about Prophet Elisha in the land of Israel, and Lady Namaan went and told Captain Namaan that he should go and see Prophet Elisha. Captain Namaan got his horses ready and his chariot, and some of his men got on their horses, and they rode to the land of Israel to find Prophet Elisha. Now, as they got close to Prophet Elisha's house, Elisha sent his servant out to meet Captain Namaan and tell him to go wash 7 times in the river Jordan, and he would be well. Captain Namaan was very angry. He said, "I don't want to wash in that muddy river. There are cleaner rivers at home. Why can't I wash in one of them? I'm not going to do this." So he turned his horse around and he started to go home. As Captain Namaan was headed home, his men came up close beside him on their horses, and they said to him, "If Elisha had asked you to do something really hard, wouldn't you have done it? Why don't you do this thing? It's very simple. It's little. Why don't you go wash in the river Jordan?" Captain Namaan thought about that for a minute, and then he decided that he would go and do as Prophet Elisha had said. So he got down off of his chariot, and he walked out into the river. And he dipped down under the water one time, and he came back up. But the spots were still there. And he dipped down again, and he came back up. But the spots were still there. He went down a 3rd time and came back up. And he looked, and the spots were still there. He went under the water the 4th time and came back up. And sure enough, the spots were still there. They weren't getting any smaller. He went down under the water a 5th time and came back up. Still, there were spots all over. He went down again the 6th time and came back up. But the spots were still there. And then he went down the 7th time and he came back up. And the spots were gone. He was well. He went splashing out of the river and jumped back in his chariot so that he could ride back to Prophet Elisha's house to tell him thank you. When Captain Namaan got to Prophet Elisha's house, he offered him some gifts to express how thankful he was for being made well. But Prophet Elisha said, "No, I cannot take those gifts. I did not make you well. It was God in heaven who made you well." Captain Namaan was so happy, he hurried home. As Captain Namaan got close, Lady Namaan and Little Maid saw him coming, and they waved to him. As he came near, he shouted, "I am well." Captain and Lady Namaan were so happy to have Captain Namaan well again, and little Maid was happy too. Now, Captain and Lady Namaan hadn't known about Jesus before, but because little Maid was a missionary for Jesus, they came to know about him and learn to love and worship him too. You can be a missionary wherever you are as well. You may not be taken to a foreign land by your enemies, but you can be a missionary for Jesus right where you are. Our memory verse today is taken from Matthew 5, verse 44. It says, "Love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you." I'd like you to take a minute now and say this to your mom or dad. Matthew 5, 44. Love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you.